name is Brent. I am half owner of Brentster Productions. The other half owner is my brother Greg, which we'll meet him in a minute. We are both pros in the industry of live sound and lighting, working at a local venue here in Kansas City called Voodoo Lounge. It's based out of one of our casinos. Basically what we decided to do when we started Brentster Productions was help out local bands, achieve a more professional look and sound rather than having them run their own sound from the side of the stage for a cheap price. Also on this channel you saw our sub video. Built these bad boys over a year ago. They are still rocking, still going strong, taking them out of hundreds of bars around Kansas City. Most of them have been in the same bar a few times. What we're going to build today is a road case. Don't know if you've looked at prices of road cases, but for anything larger than an amp rack, you're spending $800 to over $1,000. As far as your amp racks go, you can buy these for pretty cheap. This is our front of house rack. This ran us about 250 bucks. That's about what our road case that we're building today is going to cost us. Approximate dimensions of a road case that we're building today is going to be about 30 inches by about 30 inches by about 24 inches. We are building an economy style case, which you'll see what we mean by that later. What we're replacing are these right here. These are an okay situation if you want to haul in a bunch of stuff. If you have a dolly, these work out fine. I'm just getting tired of hauling them around, which a lot of bands, you'll see them have something like this, or the good friend, the milk crate. You can find these anywhere. They're a decent solution, but you want to look more professional, you build some road cases. So what we're going to do next is we are going to go over the parts and tools required for this $200 economy road case build. Greg, take it away.
How's it going, guys? My name is Greg with Brentster Productions. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the basic tools and hardware we're going to use for this project. Starting off, just a basic drill. To make this project go a lot quicker, this is something I highly recommend getting, is this 3-in-1 bit here. So anything you have to do a pilot hole with, like we're going to with this because we're doing plywood, this has a pilot drill bit, your countersink, and flip it over, and you got your screwdriver on there. So you got 3-in-1, all the drill bits you're going to need for assembling all of your wood screws in one setup. Makes it a lot quicker. I highly recommend getting one of those. Basic jigsaw just for cutting out any of our pockets for our handles and stuff like that. The screws we're going to use, this is a fine thread screw. It's important you get a fine thread just because we're using plywood. You don't want to split the wood up and rip it up real bad, so we're going to use a countersink bit and a fine thread screw. We're going to be doing all the hardware is going to be assembled with rivets on this project, so we're not going to use screws for all of our hardware. This is a fancy pneumatic one. They're not that expensive. They're about 40 bucks online. Makes it go a lot faster, especially if you're building multiple cases. You can do a lot more with an air rivet gun than the hand one. Here's a hand rivet gun. You could use this as well. It just takes a little bit longer, but it's just fine if you're only building one case. Here's our rivets we're using. These are a 1/8 rivet with a 5/8 long throat, and this is, or they call it a grip. Basically that's your length. If you use too short of a rivet, it's not going to go through your hardware and your plywood without being too short. It'll just snap off. So you want to make sure you get plenty of length for the size of wood you're using. Over here on this side you got basic wood glue. We're going to glue and screw all of our wood together, and then to finish your project off, to cover it, this is actually a Rust-Oleum product. It's an oil-based enamel, so it's not a paint, it's enamel. So it's a super hard finish. It does really good at cases because it's super durable, and it covers really evenly. You don't really want to use like spray paint because it's going to be too uneven of the coating, and you're going to have a bunch of shadows. So this will give you a nice dark professional look, and if you do scratch it, it's real easy to cover up. So I recommend using an oil-based enamel, but you could just use a basic black roll-on paint if you wanted. As far as the actual case hardware goes, now all this hardware we got online, pretty cheap. At the bottom of the page we'll show you some basic websites we got all the stuff from that you can order all of this hardware from. You have steel corners. You just go over all of our corners of the case. It just keeps your corner from getting banged up when you smack it into other cases, or if you're putting it in and out of your trailer. protects your corners. Here's our handles, so you can move your case. You can use it to tie it down if you got to pick it up to go upstairs or go over lips. These are over 100 pounds rating. They're a spring-loaded handle, so they're real sturdy. They tuck in there nice, so you're not having a solid handle that's sticking out the case all the time. Lays flat, you just pull it up, and it's spring-loaded. They're real nice. You have your butterfly latch, or a hasp, sometimes they're called. So these are your actual locking and turn them and lock them, and they hold your lid on nice and secure. We also have these down here. These are your hinges. These are a 90-degree stop hinge. So when you open your case lid, it won't just flip all the way back on you. They have a stop, so they will stop at 90 degrees. We'll show you these when we install them. These are some corner brackets. Basically, we're going to use glue and screws to put all the wood of the case together, but this is just another form of support. It's going to go on every corner, about halfway up the case. You'll see that when we install them. Just makes the case a little stronger and a little bulkier, so it's not only relying on that glue and the screws for the sturdiness of the case. So it's a corner piece. These are real fancy to get. You don't have to, but you can. These are a tongue and groove design, and basically these go on your lid and the bottom of your case. So when your lid closes, they latch together and it keeps your case nice and square. So these are really cool to get. Like I said, you don't have to get them, but if you want a real professional looking case and you want a lid that's going to go on and stay really straight and square with the rest of the box, then these are a good product to buy. Lastly, the wheels. These are one of your major important things for getting a good road case. When you build a road case, the wheel is probably one of the most important pieces of hardware. You don't have to buy handles, you don't have to buy corner brackets, you can just cut handles in it. Your wheel is probably the most important piece of hardware you want to get. This is a professional grade medium duty, it's a 3-inch caster, solid rubber, and this is a locking caster. Now you don't want to get steel casters, you don't want to get a plastic caster. You go to a hardware store, there's all different versions of casters. These are a non-skid material, and it's very important when you're going into bars or clubs or hotels, is you don't want like a metal wheel that's going to scratch their floor, or a rubber wheel that can leave a surface behind, because you don't want to tear up the venue you're bringing your equipment into and have to, pay charges or whatever. So you want to be professional, get a non-skid caster so it's not going to mess up the tile floor, wood floor, whatever they got in the venue you're going into. These are locking. You could do all 4 locking on your case, but you could probably get away with just 2. This is mainly just to hold it in place inside your trailer, or if you set it in your venue, you just want to lock it in place. But as long as you're on a level surface, it's pretty much not going to roll around. So you could get away with just 2, but we're putting all 4 locking on here just because we spent the extra money. So with that, the rest of the details on some of the pricing for every individual item is going to be listed at the bottom of the page. Total overall, not including tools, it's about $200 worth of parts and hardware. So the next step, we're going to show you what the basic layout of the box is, and then we're going to start assembling this thing.
Alright, and now what we're going to show you is the cuts of the wood. This is just the basic generic of how the case is going to go together. If you own a table saw, you can do all your cuts at home. It's a little difficult if you only got one person. All big box hardware stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, they have 8-foot panel saws that they can cut all of this for you. That's what I did on this. I own a table saw, but it was easier to have them cut. Quick tip, I know you notice all of our pieces have been painted. This the inside has been painted. That's one quick tip. Paint all of your interiors first. Trying to paint inside of the case is really hard. Plus with the paint we're using, not safe. You will kill brain cells if you're not using a respirator or in a well-ventilated area. Paint the inside of the case. All hardware stores will have a panel saw if you want to cut this. This is 1/2-inch ply, by the way.
Okay, so next I'm going to show you just the basic assembly of how this box goes. We've already had the one corner done to make it easier to show you because it's hard to hold it and film at the same time. So basically, as you see on this one here, we just did 4 screws. Depending on the height of your box, you might need 5 screws, you might need 6 screws, you might only need 2 if you're making something short. So there's no real rule, just you want it to be sturdy, so however many screws you need to make it secure. So we're going to glue it first. So I'm just going to run a bead of glue down the edge. And with wood glue, of course, it sticks pretty good, so you really don't have to use a whole lot and it bonds pretty good. So I'm going to line this piece up with my other edge. And this is where this bit comes in real handy. Just going to find my edge. Now to help, if you're not very precise or don't trust yourself to always hit, we're working with 1/2 inch plywood, so it is kind of thin. You can measure half the thickness of your plywood. So you can just mark a line with the tape and you can use that as a guideline for your bit. But I'm pretty good at just guessing where my center of my wood is. I've been doing this for quite a long time, built quite a few, so that's just another option. You can draw a line. So this simple bit works pretty nice. I can drill my hole. And there's my pilot hole all in one. Now I got to do is sink a screw in and continue the same process all the way down.
Alright, now we've officially completed the walls of the box. Reason we didn't show you step by step on this, if you can't figure out how to build a box that's a rectangle, probably watching the wrong video. But what we've completed now is we have the structure walls. We're about to add on the bottom, and we'll throw the caster plate on at the same time. So we'll show you how to do that, and then we will take you into the lid design, because the lid design is probably the most complicated part of this entire case.
Okay, as you can see on the bottom here, it's pretty much the same process as doing the sides. It's just going to be a little bit more screws on the longer edges. So we're doing the same process of drilling our countersink hole, and then we sink our screw in. Okay, so this is the caster plate design. How a caster plate works. It's just another piece of wood that you cut to mount your wheels to. So we already drilled all the holes through this. You can see we already pre-painted just the one side here. What this does is you're going to lay it down. You don't have to glue these because you're putting 4 bolts on each side, so it's going to be plenty stable enough. Basically what the caster plate does is when you attach your wheel, it is going to give you more strength for the weight and for any binding or anything you're going to get while rolling your case when it's fully loaded. If you just went into the bottom of your plywood, it's only going through the 1/2 inch of wood. So now we have a 1 inch thickness of wood here through this plate and your bottom board that your wheel has to mount. So it just makes your wheel a lot stronger and more solid of a mount, so you're not going to break your wood on your case. So these are a shoulder bolt. These are an 1.5 inch long bolt, so it's going to go all the way through all this and leave just enough sticking out on the other side to put the nut on, but it's not going to be standing up inside of our case. So it's just like that. You stick your wheels in and you put your nuts on from the other side. And there you go. Okay, so here you can see the lid design. Basically, it's like a 3-dimensional lid. So that can be a flat lid, so we can actually put all of our ball corners and things like that on it. If you want to make it just simple, you could do a simple flat lid with a normal hinge, but it's not going to be as sturdy or as rigid. So we did this 3.5 inch lip all the way around. Actually, widest. Well, if you include the top board, it's about 3 3/4. Depending on the hardware you buy is going to determine that. So with all your hardware you're going to bolt on, you want to make sure you have enough space between the hardware. So it's going to determine whatever hardware you buy, so how wide it needs to be. So basically, if you don't have clamps, like I said, we're trying to show you the most simplest budget build we can do. You can get those big carpenter's clamps that are 4 or 5 feet long, but those things are super expensive. So what we're going to do is we'll flip this up on end, and we'll just secure one of these sides at a time, and then just kind of go in a clockwise motion. So if you don't have the clamps, there's a way to get around that. If you have the nice carpenter's clamps, you could just clamp all this together, glue it together, and screw it all at once. But we're going to show you the simple method, so you don't have to buy a lot of extra tools if you don't have them. So next part, we're just going to show you how to assemble this, and then next will be installing the hardware, basically, and painting it. Alright, so you can see here, this is kind of the easy way. If you don't have nice clamps to put your lid together, just go through, turn it on in, just like you did with the other side panels, and just do one piece at a time. So we got all three, so this is our last piece to go in. And remember, we're gluing and putting screws in every section of wood just to make it extra strong and secure. And with these pieces, it's going in this lid. I'm doing all the sides it's going to touch, so anywhere the wood bonds together is getting glued together. Now I'm not going to worry about putting screws at the ends here because we're going to have our 90-degree latches and our ball corners on either side of this. By the time you sink all the rivets in that, it's going to be more secure anyway, so there's no sense of putting a screw in there because it's not needed. So what you want, if you get your measurements perfectly straight, you should have a nice snug fit of all of your corners so you don't have any gaps in it. You want everything to fit nice and tight so it'll all be nice and square. And if you have little bits of bows, it's plywood. As you know, with working with plywood, it's never going to be 100% square. But by the time you sink all your screws in it, it's going to be just fine. So from here, all I got to do is put 4 or 5 screws down the side, and then the top part of the lid will be complete.
Alright, there we go. We have the frame and everything finished on the case. Got our hollow lid here where the hinges will go back here, which is what we're going to work on next, is laying out the hardware positions, getting all the holes pre-drilled. And then after that we will paint, add hardware, and we'll have a finished case. So next we're going to lay out our positions, pre-drill all the holes for the rivets.
Okay, so you can see we have our box pretty much all assembled and laid out. One thing to take note, I probably should have mentioned in the beginning, but you'll figure it out from this point before you build your project. When you're laying out your wood, here's a tip, is that when you're cutting all your pieces out, your entire dimension of your box, your bottom plate, and the top of your lid needs to be that full size dimension. And the reason is, your bottom plate is going to take all of your wood, or all of your weight. So your bottom plate here is dispersing all of the weight for your trunk. So when you measure your entire width and length of your box, you're going to use your side panels on the ends. Those are going to be the full front to back width of your box. Your sides are going to cut to fit inside that width. So if you're using 1/2 inch wood, you're going to need to subtract 1 inch off this front plate from the overall. So 1/2 inch from each side for your thickness is how wide that board is going to be. So basically all of your walls sit inside of this bottom plate. Now if you use this bottom plate and you put your wood on the outside of it, so it went on the front edge all the way around, now your weight is going to be on the side part of your screw. So imagine if you have your screw like this going in, when you pick your box up, it's going to have this pulling motion, which the screw is not really meant to hold the weight. So if you have your screw straight up and down, as they are with this and your glue, you have a stronger surface because you have all these screws going along straight up and down, which are meant to pull from this direction. So if you lift your box up, you're doing a pulling motion rather than having your screw at this angle. So this just make your box a little more secure by having your bottom plate be your total dimension, and your sides will cut in to all fit inside that. So your bottom and top plate will be the same size board, and then you may make your side plates. So with that, our box is assembled. Here's another tip for laying out your hardware. You see we have these ratchet straps on here, and what this is going to do is we're pre-drilling all of our hardware locations for our hinges, our latches, corner pieces, whatever. This is keeping our whole box solid so we know that it's going to line up right and our holes aren't going to get off. So we measure our holes for our hinges, you drill those holes on the back, and then if your top shifts, your front's not going to line up right when you do it. So you put it all together, you're going to have problems. So strap it all together with some cargo straps or whatever you got, and it keeps it nice and secure so you know where your holes line up. Now we've already drilled our holes for the hinges on the back side. That's relatively easy. The next part is a little bit more difficult, and that is doing these two-piece latches. So if you look here, I'll show you these two-piece latches. So here's the open part of how they are, and I attach one together. So these have, as you see, this lip that pops at the back, and this is what you have to cut out with your jigsaw. Now the easy way to do this is put it together. Not every latch is going to be the same distance. So we put ours together, and you can see they're roughly 3 inches. You can round up on these because you're just drilling a hole, and they give you a big enough lip that you can have a little bit of space, you know, a 1/16 of an inch, an 1/8 of an inch that you can have to play with on either side. So your hole doesn't have to be 100% perfect. So we rounded ours up to 3 by 3 of our hole. And if you look at this, your top side is about 1 inch, almost exact 1 inch, and your bottom side is 2 inches. So that gives you 3 inches overall. So what that means is your top half of your lid needs to have a 1 inch cut, and your bottom half is going to have a 2 inch cut. So the easy way to lay this out, look on the front of the box. Our total dimensions was 40 inches wide. So we took our center of 20 inches, cut that in half on each side, so we got a 10 and a 30. So we see these 2 lines here. So we have 2 lines, so that's our double center. So we know to split with that evenly. So basically, we know it's 3 inches wide, so we went 1.5 inches on either side of that center line on either side. So that gives you your width. For top to bottom, we know this top half of the latch is 1 inch. So we just did a 1 inch line around the top here, so you got 1 inch there. Your bottom half is 2 inches. So here's your 2 inches on either side. And always check your square and make sure you're getting this squared up on same distance on both sides. Otherwise your latch might sit a little sideways or crooked. So basically you lay these out pretty even. It's a pretty generic way to do it. Usually most boxes only have 2 latches, so just do a double center like that. Take your center and then find the center of each of that point. So there you have it. That's pretty much the best way to do it. Next we're going to cut out these holes, and then we'll move on to our handles.
Alright, so what we've done now is we have made the holes for our handles. And to do this, basically what you will need to do is you need to know your total length of the recessed part of your handle, just like we did on the front with the hasps. We're just doing this as one piece with the handles. So you just need to know the complete dimension around here. All handle sizes are different, so I'm not even going to bother telling you what the dimension was for this. So all the handles are different. And we just found that, and then we did the same thing as we did on the center with placement. We found the center of the case and then the center of the splits. And for our vertical, we basically just reached down to see what was a comfortable position. There is no set standard, so it's whatever you feel comfortable to bend down and lift the case. We have marked our holes and drilled out where the rivets will be punched through. And so once this side is complete, we got the other side complete. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to paint the case, and it'll have to dry overnight. But when it's dried, we'll come back, add on the hardware, and that'll be that. Alright, now we're at the point of adding the hardware to the case. We're going to pop a couple of these rivets on. With the rivets you can use backing washers. It's a backup plate is what's actually on the package. It just makes it a little more secure when you're doing I don't even know how many are here. This many, you don't need them pretty much because the amount that's here is going to more than make up for it. So we're just going to do a couple of these real quick and then we'll show you what the back looks like. Well, we have finished the case, got all the hardware on it, done some painting, waited for a warmer day to get outside and clean it up a little bit. What we've done, we've got all your hardware finished. The painting's not 100% yet, but it's acceptable. So what we're going to do is we're just going to show you the inside here. Just want to come up here and take a look at the inside. What we've done is we've lined one side with what is called Pelican Pick and Pluck foam. We've got a small sample of it that we cut out here. You can see it comes apart in little cubes. This is just a small portion we pulled out of this case. You can pick this up. Oh, it's kind of expensive. We were fortunate enough to just have some left over from another project. But you can also use upholstery foam and cut it out if you want some custom cuts to protect your gear. As you can see, we've got dimmer packs custom cut into this side. And the other side, we've just got our electrical cabling and DMX, and all the stuff that we had in those two totes at the beginning of the video is now in this case. Case probably weighs in at about 80 pounds fully loaded. So it's really not too bad to handle if you got a trailer with a ramp and a buddy to help you get loaded in. But this is the final video, the final cut of the economic case put on by Brinster Productions, paid for and copywritten by Brinster Productions. So, here you go. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put those below and we'll get those answered as soon as possible.